Well, it's our last night in San Francisco Bay Area. We're currently anchored in Horseshoe Bay, which is literally right underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. We're getting excited / anxious to leave tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. We've got one of our best friends, Evan, coming, and we called him last minute. Our other crew member canceled, and he is just like such a beauty. We're taking advantage of a weather window, and we're heading out tomorrow to hop down the coast. But check out the Golden Gate Bridge right now. You're about to cross under the Golden Gate Bridge. How's it feel?
How's it feel? I don't know. Chilly? Oh, yeah. I'm good at those emotional statements too. Yeah. Cruising Monterey here. Not much to report. We arrived later in the afternoon after a day sail from San Francisco. Sounds a lot like us. Easy entry, plenty of room to drop the HUD. Comfortable night's rest when we were off early again the next day. We wish we stayed a couple of days, as we know some other cruisers did and had a great time. Yeah, I'd love to stay, we just don't have time.
We're just rolling into Half Moon Bay, and Tyler always likes to read all the Navionics reviews of every anchorage. I think you should start, writing your own, Ty.
I should start a review.
Okay, but we keep coming across Cruising Maracai's, which I can't remember if they have YouTube, or I've definitely have chatted to them on Instagram before.
Sailing
so
Maracay?
Can you stop interrupting me?
Oh.
But we keep coming across Sailing Maracai's, which I've definitely chatted to them on Instagram before. So it's kind of nice to see a familiar name reading the reviews. But I do think Ty should start writing his own.
I've tried to start writing my own, but I can't figure out, because I suck at technology, I can't figure out how to get signed up.
We were only planning on spending one night in Half Moon Bay, so quickly went ashore to make the most of it. When in search for a dinghy dock, we stumbled upon the yacht club's dock that they kindly let us leave Carlos at. Cruising always leaves us the most unique experiences and the kindest people. We always find the craziest
This is wild. Yeah, captain. Captain of this here cable.
Just making it into Santa Cruz. It was a bit of an interesting morning, beating into it, motor sailing, but we ended up having to kind of tack way out, but because of that we found a whole bunch of humpback whales and kept having to shut the engine, slam it into neutral, so it ended up being kind of a pretty good day, just a long day. Now we're just entering Santa Cruz, just at the beginning of sunset. Hopefully get some surf in tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah, he's fun stuff.
You go under your stomach. There you go. Almost there.
Where are you, Carlos?
Almost there. We finally got out of our wetsuits and geared up for a much anticipated surf. We were meeting a friend from High Fives Foundation, a local here, who was going to take us to his favorite wave.
Rob is the man. Dragged 2 extra longboards out for us because we only have the one mid-length on board and I only have a small short board. So Rob's got 2 boards tied to him here, paddling all the way out. Oh, this is so good.
Let's do it. Ty and I have been talking about surfing from the dinghy from our boat for a couple years now, so it's pretty cool to be able to anchor the dinghy behind the surf break and be able to catch a couple good waves. Huge thanks to Rob for taking us to Pleasure Point. It's a little bit of localism at this wave, so it's really sweet to be able to surf here. And I only saw one fin. I'm pretty sure it was a harbor porpoise, but could have been a shark. Not sure. How was your first surf off the dinghy?
Oh, it's so good. Small, but it's fun. Sick to paddle in from Carla.
Carlos didn't die out here.
Oh, perfect.
We had a super rolling night. We all didn't sleep very well, but we slept in because we had nothing better to do. So we're gonna go move to a different spot because this wasn't the best. We're right in front of Capitola. We're gonna head down to Monterey and check that out. I'd really like to get to the aquarium there. We want to get to a dive shop. But yeah, just moving along, continuing our journey south. It's working?
Seems to be. So far, I don't know, what's that? 30 minutes and 30 seconds. Multiple adjustments and wind changes and sail changes, which don't expect it to work through that. So, I don't know. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, all the things.
That was plastic.
There's wood. Yeah, seems to be doing pretty well.
Nice work.
Pamela.
After a trip to the Monterey aquarium, we kept heading south, where we stopped over at Stillwater Cove before continuing on an overnight journey. Well, we didn't end up diving today. Kind of ran out of time, but we still really enjoyed our stop here. And we're now at a great spot to head on to our next location. We're gonna do an overnight so that we arrive during the day. So we're leaving here at about 7:30 p.m. It's just starting to get a little bit darker now, and we're gonna head out so we can see our way through the kelp beds, and then we're sailing overnight down the Big Sur coast. And we should be getting around anytime between noon to dark tomorrow. See you then. You ready for another overnight?
Let's do it. Just a nice, mellow, chill night.
Pam's gonna carry us.
Pam's gonna crush it. Let's go, Pam. Hands in the middle. 1, 2, 3, Pam.
Pam!
Go, Pam.
Here they come! Woo-hoo-hoo! This is very different from our long passage. The sea state's pretty calm. We're just running downwind on a broad reach, and we're playing crib. We definitely wouldn't have done that on the last trip.
Messy game of crib.
Yeah.
Lost cards.
We are cruising along on Broad Reach. We're headed down past Point Conception tonight. We're really looking forward to getting to Southern California. I think I've had a little bit of anxiety over, especially after the last longer passage of, not necessarily the overnight, but just headed out, but just like headed out around these points that you can get a lot of current and opposing winds, can get really nasty around them. So in the back of my mind, I've had this like anxiety around that. So I'm really looking forward to getting that over with and being in some warmer weather, because I've barely taken my sweater off the last week especially. It's been really chilly. But the fog has cleared up and we've just been cruising all day. So I just thought I would put together a little video of what has gone well and what hasn't gone well, what's broken now that it's been almost a month since we left Canada. And we've been using the boat pretty heavily. We did 9 days from Canada to San Francisco, and then we've basically just been like hopping down the coast ever since. So it's been pretty constant on the boat, and I was really curious how she would hold up. But we put so much work into it that it doesn't really surprise me that not too much has gone wrong. But a few major things, a few minor things, let's get into it. Number one, our self-steering devices, so autopilot and our monitor wind vane, weren't really working. Our autopilot is a Raymarine. It was installed in 2001, so it is over 20 years old now. We knew the whole Raymarine system was on the fritz, and the very first thing that went, which went before we left, was our radar. And you would have seen in our previous video that we didn't actually have our radar working when we left Canada. So that was a bit of a bummer. We call our autopilot Jim. He steered the first couple days for us as we were kind of beating into the wind, light winds, and he was able to keep up okay, but then hit a certain point where it just couldn't. So we started hand steering. Now, almost 30 days later, Jim is just fully shit in the bed. We've tried some fixes, I redid some wiring, and it's just not able to do anything now. So Jim is dead. Our wind vane system, which is a Scanmar monitor, but we really haven't got that much time to use it because all of the inside passage sailing in Canada, it's so protected, there's so many islands. So we really didn't give it a good test before we left, other than a half an hour here, half an hour there. So we were really disappointed to find out that once we got out there that it just wasn't able to keep a good course for more than like half an hour, especially in big swell. The rudder would pin over to the left, and we are gonna talk about it in another video.
But I'm assuming that rudder was just installed 10 degrees off, so now when it's been aligned properly at that junction box, it means the rudder's always going to run the port side, which is crazy that we actually were able to balance it like that.
But basically we couldn't rely on that. It meant we had to hand steer for 3 days, which was absolutely exhausting, especially for Tyler. I got pretty nervous at night not being able to see in these really confused seas. It was just all in all really tough. We were really happy to have a third crew member for that section. I'm glad we had a crew member. We've since done a couple nights out, and we have fixed the monitor wind vane, and it's been working beautifully. So even though that is one thing that didn't go well, it's now going really well. So that's a happy ending. One thing I guess that didn't go well is our fuel gauge. We ended up running the engine a lot. We find this boat to be pretty squirrely in big seas. The stern really wanted to kind of whip around, and just to feel safer when we were in those bigger seas for a few days, we had the engine running just to help with steerage. It really helped keep us headed downwind. That's what we felt comfortable with. The engine ran awesome, but our fuel gauge said we were just over a quarter when we ran out of fuel. So that was a big oops-a-daisy, but we had some jerry cans and we made it work. Managed to sail into the nearest port. The other thing that broke, and it kind of broke right before the trip, but I'm including it in it because it would have broke if it hadn't already, and that was our toilet seat. The boat was moving so much, and just the back and forth when sitting on the seat, especially for Tyler, who doesn't always have his legs on. The toilet seat, the hinges broke, so we ended up double-sided taping it. Not a huge deal, but just kind of an annoying thing.
You may have already noticed, but the last thing that broke is Tyler's tooth. Tyler took a good fall knocking his veneer loose. I guess he's that much more of a pirate now.
That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen.
Another thing that I was glad that we did was take apart our mantis anchor. I was really worried about, it's such a heavy anchor up on the bow, I was worried about it smashing around. So I ended up taking it off and breaking it apart and sticking it in the bilge. And I'm really glad I did that because we had some pretty heavy waves coming over the bow at one point. Okay, I think that's it. That's enough talking. My arm's getting tired of holding the camera. For those of you wondering how the boat was doing, how we were doing after a month of full-time cruising in a different country. What's it looking like out there, Ty? I'm just trying to get a few hours of sleep before I take over at midnight. And Tyler's getting the first shift. He always takes the 9 to 12 because he doesn't really sleep before midnight anyways, so I might as well have a shift. It's a bit rolly, the wind's died a little bit, but we're still making pretty good progress, around 4 knots in the right direction. So we should be around Point Conception, I think around 2 a.m. Just took over Tyler. It was good timing because we needed to change from, we were doing wing on wing for a few hours. We just changed to a port side broad reach because we were getting close to the shipping channel. So it's a lot nicer tonight with less fog, and we're cruising now. We've been averaging around 6 knots, and this broad reach is a lot more comfy than the wing on wing, a little less rolly. So hopefully Tyler can get a couple hours of sleep. Just had to route us around these oil platforms. I didn't really realize they were there. I was wanting to come in now that we're rounding Point Conception, but we're now having to go between them and the shipping channel, so it's a little bit interesting for a bit, but we're on a good course now. They're lit up like a Christmas tree. The next morning, we cruised into Santa Barbara, where it finally felt like we had made it to Southern California. Everyone keeps telling us it'll be easy sailing south of Point Conception. Hopefully they are right. For now, we're enjoying our time in Santa Barbara, and we'll be heading south in a few days. How are the legs?
very similar to mine. No legs.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. We're about a month behind real time in the videos, but it's okay because it gives me time to edit. But if you do want to be up to date with what we're doing in real time, we've been posting updates on Patreon. We're currently about to cross into Mexico today, and I'm really excited about that. But if you do want to find us on Patreon, it's patreon.com/allaboutspray, or we post pretty regularly on Instagram. I'm at From Sun to Sail, and Tyler is at TyTurner14. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.